After a long 2-week layoff, the MLS Cup playoffs resumed this weekend in fascinating and amazing fashion, with a match with Vancouver winning, San Diego winning heartily, Miami winning heartily, and now the New York City FC team is going to head down the turnpike to take on Philadelphia Union, the Supporters Shield champion in Chester, Pennsylvania, in a match that is probably going to come down to the last 90 minutes if the Philadelphia Union don't utterly blow out NYC right out of the water.
Stand up, we gon' make some moves tonight. Yeah, stand up, got something to prove tonight. So stand up, we ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright. We ain't gonna stall, never stop. We gon' make it all till it's out. We ain't gonna plan tonight. We gonna take action on our dreams and fight, alright.
And I probably could have dropped that little banner down at the bottom. Anyway, my name is Scott Schertzen. I have been a pool reporter for New York City FC since 2023. I have been covering the team since 2021. First year I covered them, ironically enough, it was also the year that they went to the MLS Cup playoffs, the MLS Cup finals, and beat Portland for their first trophy. For me personally, I did not choose to make the trip down the turnpike today to head down to Philadelphia area, in this case specifically Chester, Pennsylvania. I've got people in the area. I'll let them kind of handle it. So today, props out to J.D. Walker, who's sitting in the booth right now, sitting warm, comfortable, and mega props to my guy Kyle, who is currently down on the pitch right now, doing photography for us and freezing his ass off. So blessings to both of you. You guys are awesome. As for me, I am sitting down here very quietly in my basement, just kind of enjoying the area I've got here. I got the game on over there. We'll talk about Apple TV. We will talk about a lot of the things that happened in the news in the last 2 weeks. While we did not have any MLS Cup play, we will talk about NWSL. We'll be talking about a bunch of stuff that's going on. We'll talk a little bit about USL. Pittsburgh Riverhounds had their first championship in 26 years. Going to take a small, I guess, indirect credit for that because it was also our first year covering that team. So weirdly enough, we'll talk about the irony of the fact that 4 different teams across 2 different sports we covered for the first time, and they all went to the finals or won. But anyway, I've got myself today my USFL New Jersey Generals Cup, a little bit of water in here, a little bit of soda in here. Not going to say exactly what's in there. Let you guys learn that one for later. But it is actually something way back from the 1980s from the original USFL, the New Jersey Generals with Doug Flutie, Herschel Walker, Roger Ruzek, and all those guys. And it broke my heart mightily when the team was gone. Anyway, talking a little bit here, NYCFC and the MLS Cup playoff weekend, which again was a dandy. San Diego handled Portland very handily. It is their first season, so you know what? You got to love what's going on with them. It has been a good year for Anders Dreyer and the rest of the San Diego fan base down there. I personally am really happy for San Diego. You know, they got screwed, you know, with losing, not only just losing, you know, the Chargers. You know, losing the Chargers to LA was tough enough after all those decades. But if you guys remember way back in 2019, there was also something called the Alliance of American Football, which predated XFL 2.0. The Alliance of American Football had a team called the San Diego Fleet. And San Diego was like, cool, we got a football team. We're excited here. And, of course, the league folded up after 7 games. They never finished the season. So San Diego, I'm actually really excited, really proud of them. It's a good sports city. It deserves a lot more love than it's getting. So the city has really rallied around Snapdragon Stadium very well. And I'm excited to see what that team can do. But they handled Portland very handily over there. 4-0. Speaking of handling very handily, Inter Miami went into Cincy and just blew Cincy out on the road, showing no remorse for the fact that Cincy had a higher seed and home field for that match. Lionel Messi had a goal. You know, Miami ran up 4 goals on that game and just took the fans out of it and are moving on to the winner of this match. Now, whether they end up actually playing on the road against Philadelphia or they end up playing at home against NYCFC, we're going to know in probably about 2 hours. But also, the other match on this one, this was the big one for me. Vancouver pulled out a thriller of a victory last night against Sonnen LAFC. Steve Tarangelo's last game. I'm a little sad about that. He said he was going to step down as coach of LAFC and pretty much more or less kind of retire at the end of the season, which for him is now over. But that match came down right to the wire. LAFC had every opportunity. Shots off the crossbar, shots off the pipe, shots right through the box, you know, and playing up, you know, with Vancouver having red cards, you know, I mean, that match was 100% LAFC's to take, but they lost it in PKs. And credit to Vancouver, their miracle season's moving on. Brian White, Berhalter, Ikeoka, I think is his name. I'm drawing a blank on that. Sorry, my bad. But it's been a good run. So seeing two, we'll call them upstarts, playing in the Western Conference Finals next week is going to be interesting between San Diego and Vancouver. Vancouver was one of my early picks for the MLS Cup Finals, but then again, so was FC Cincinnati, and we see what happened there. Now, talking this match, there is a lot to digest before this match kicks off, and I'll be watching it, I'll be covering it, I'll be taking whatever comments you've got. Weirdly enough, I'm actually being sort of evaluated on this in a weird way, so this is actually a good thing, and part of the reason I'm doing this solo. But NYCFC surprised a lot of people, including myself, with their best-of-3 win over Charlotte. I think a lot of people didn't expect it. I talked to some of the broadcasting team down in Charlotte. The expectation was that it was going to be every home team wins. So Charlotte would win game 1, NYCFC game 2, Charlotte game 3. And it was the dead opposite of that. And credit to NYCFC, credit to Pascal Janssen, credit to Alonso Martinez, Nico Mercado. We'll talk Alonso in a minute, I promise you that. But credit to that entire squad because they surprised a lot of people, even including myself, and took down Charlotte in a best-of-3. As far as Philadelphia goes, they handled the Chicago Fire more or less pretty easily. Chicago had a great opportunity with a come-from-behind match. They almost won in PKs after being down 2-0 against Philadelphia at Subaru Park in Game 1. And losing Game 2, losing that game in PK, I think just took everything out of them, and they had no chance to win Game 2. Now, what's going to be interesting here, and this is something that the new rule changes and the new schedule change, I think is going to really have an impact on the league and to its benefit, is the fact that we have had 2 weeks off for NYCFC. We have had 3 weeks off for the Philadelphia Union. So, as a result, you're going to have two teams that are a little bit on the rusty side, Philadelphia especially, because for NYCFC fans, you guys are going to remember way back in 2021, when that little upstart team defeated the New England Revolution in PKs, when the Revolution had a 23-day layoff between matches. I remember this extremely well. I don't do this often, but I asked a really good question for Sean Johnson at the time. A lot of my questions are usually pretty lame, I'll be honest with you. I kind of suck at that. But this was a really good one. To this day, I'm so proud of it. But it was a match that NYCFC won in PKs, and had a lot to do with the fact that the Revolution had a 3-week plus layoff. And you have to ask yourself the magic question here. Will Philadelphia also possibly have a little bit of rust coming out of the gate with a 3-week layoff? A lot of the league has hated this. A lot of the league, for a lot of different reasons, has thought this is really stupid. I think the schedule change that they've got going into 2027 is going to alleviate that, which I think is a great decision. I love the decision that they also made when it came to that 14-game season. I love that idea. I am fascinated by that, so much so, because it's going to remind me a lot of what it was like in 2020, if you guys remember the Major League Baseball season, when there was just 60 games, because every single game counts as more. And I know some people have commented on my Twitter with this, saying the fact that you can get some upstart team that can suddenly get lucky. I kind of like that, because if you notice what happened with MLS this season, especially on the East side, you had all of basically the people that got in the playoffs and all the teams that were just gone. And usually, statistically speaking, from I think it was like 2019 through 2024, COVID year notwithstanding, every team that made the playoffs at a 9 seed. So granted, 2019, they didn't have a 9 seed, but run with it, the 9th seed team in the East. The number of points by the end of that season was somewhere between 41 and 47 points. This year, it was 53 to get 9th place, because you had a lot of teams that were frankly kind of bottom feeders out there. Atlanta, which surprised a lot of people. I mean, I figured Atlanta was going to be a lot better than they were. I figured Ronnie Dylo was going to do a lot better with that team. But you also had, CF Montreal that had a bad season, Toronto, which had another bad season, and you had the haves and you had the have-nots. And the have-nots really brought everybody else up. And right now, the match is probably going to be starting right around 8 o'clock, I think is the game plan. Camera was supposed to be set up right around 7:45. I think we are probably seconds away from getting rolling right now. We haven't actually talked about anything with Alonso Martinez or Pereira or O'Neill. There's a lot of concerns. They're due to kickoff, and we are officially underway. Philadelphia actually has the ball first. takes it down the side, and I expect this is going to probably be a very, very slow start. I think this is going to be something where both teams are going to basically be feeling out the other on this. I do not really. I have to ask the question here: do you feel that Alonso Martinez being out and forgetting about basically the fact that he's going to be out for until June or July of next year, maybe if he pushes it, maybe May, forgetting that for a sec, that's brutal as an own right. But how much is it going to affect NYCFC here to have Alonso Martinez out because of that ACL injury? Weirdly enough, this gives me a little bit of vibes. If you remember the World Baseball Classic, Mets fans are going to remember this, but the World Baseball Classic when Edwin Diaz, drew a blank on his name for a sec, when Edwin Diaz hurt himself in the World Baseball Classic and was out for the season. This is very similar in some ways. Alonso Martinez was playing for Costa Rica, hurt the ACL, and now he's out for months, including this match. This is the challenge that happens a lot of times when you have a team that puts all of its goal scorers into one basket. With Philadelphia, Ty Baribo has 16 goals this season, so that's going to be a big part of this as well. But it's going to be really curious to see if NYCFC can overcome that. Nico Mercado has been a great addition. NYCFC actually at this point since July, NYCFC is 7-1-1 on the road, which is nothing beyond spectacular. By the way, just want to clarify, in MLS play, I'm not talking Leagues Cup, I'm just talking pure MLS. But those are some dynamite numbers since July, and a big reason why they landed in 5th place overall. But again, they had Alonso Martinez. Is the loss of Alonso going to be that much of a factor? We have to ask that question. We have to look at Matt Freese, how much is going to be on him. Justin Hack, in some ways, I think, is looking at this as an audition because there's a lot of teams out there that are looking at Justin Hack right now. They're looking at him from the standpoint of, I think Scotland has some interest and a lot of other teams as well. So Justin Hack could be on the move as well. But this game right now, looking at it at the moment, it's kind of a light crowd. This doesn't surprise me that much. The Union, basically, the problem with this match right now is the fact that the Eagles were playing on the road against the Cowboys. Now, Eagles-Cowboys is one of the most agitated, most angriest rivalries in professional sports in the NFL. So most eyes are going to be on that Eagles game, which last I saw was 21-21 late in the 4th. So as a result, I really believe the turnout for this game is going to be a lot lighter, which I believe is going to help NYCFC. Throw in there by Tavon. We are currently about 3 minutes into this match right now. Nothing's happened. As I kind of expected right now, there wasn't going to be a whole heck of a lot happening because this is just going to be one of those matches where they're going to feel each other out. They're going to get the rust out. NYCFC, like I said, has gone 2 weeks between matches, and the Philadelphia Union have gone 3. So what does that mean? That means they're not going to really basically spend a lot of time in the first half really trying to take chances and build on this. NYCFC is working down the line right now. Quick block out of the zone, but they are controlling right now as they're getting close to the Union box. Right now, right outside the 18 box on the left side and out of bounds, and we got ourselves a throw in. So let me just do a quick update here. New York City FC 0 first half. There we go. Put that there. Good job. So no typos. Good job for me. Bradley Carnell, it's funny because they're showing Bradley Carnell on camera right now. It's for 4 minutes into this match right now. Bradley Carnell has been absolutely spectacular when it comes to this team. When they let go of Jim Curtin, I was pretty surprised by that. Jim Curtin has been a staple of that squad. He has been loyal. He has been kind. He has always been good to us. It didn't matter if I was covering NYCFC or not. He was just a really likable, friendly guy. Ties to the area with Villanova. The Sullivan family, he's very close to them. Kevin, I think he's the reason Kevin's here too, and Jack Sullivan. But his dismissal surprised a lot of people, including myself. The decision to bring in Bradley Carnell, I think, is a smart move. Clearly has worked out. But I had originally predicted this team was going to land probably 6th or 7th this year, not the first place that they did. On the other side of the fence, the decision by NYCFC to let go of Nick Cushing, it surprised me, but also at the same time didn't. They did have a decent season last year. They got past FC Cincinnati, who again had another disappointing year, and they lost in pretty much embarrassing fashion at Citi Field against the New York Red Bulls, New Jersey Red Bulls, Metro Stars, whatever you want to call them. New York product placements. I don't care if you want to call it that too. It's okay with me. But they lost badly 2-0 to the New York product placements at Citi Field, and that was the end of it. And you could kind of tell on that press conference there that Nick Cushing knew he was done with that loss. He said all the right things, but there's an old saying that you can kind of read between the lines. There's a saying in life that says that life is tonality and body language is 92% of communication, 8% is words. And for Nick Cushing, that 92% was just flashing right in her face. He's like, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. And it didn't surprise a lot of us. But I always did like Nick Cushing as a person. I'm glad he's back in the States right now. He had the interim job over in Europe and England. But now that he's coaching Denver over at NWSL and their maiden season next year, I'm happy he's back in the States again. Talked to him very slightly via LinkedIn, ironically enough. So he's excited. He's ready to go. But the team is still getting its feet wet and trying to get things going. So who knows what the season's going to be like for him. But I think Nick Cushing is better suited for a women's squad based on the personality types of him versus, say, Ronnie Dyla or now Pascal Janssen. Pascal Janssen is a tougher coach. He's got a little bit of almost I'm going to say Bill Belichick vibes with that guy. And whereas Nick Cushing, I think we referred to as the fun uncle. He was the guy that people would talk to, and be okay with. Spent a half an hour with my wife coaching her on nerves during a big swim tournament that she had that she was really nervous about. That kind of guy. Pascal Janssen won't do that kind of stuff ever. But right now, 7 minutes in at this point. Again, I don't think the ball's gotten into the box on either side yet because, again, both teams are really trying to get their rust out. This is where right here NYCFC needs to make a statement. They have got to be able to showcase that they have the ability to take the lead early and not play from behind. The problem with this game is the fact that there is no best of 3. I like the best of 3 for the first round. I do. I know some people don't like it. I know some people do. I do. But in this case here, if Philadelphia is able to take a lead and take a lead early, I think they can take NYCFC out of this very quickly. So this could either be a 2-1 final for NYCFC or a 4-0, even 5-0 loss to NYCFC. I forget if I said that right, but I think you figured it out. Ball's inside the box, but NYCFC is taking it back out again. Right now, the winner of this match, they'll just put it on screen, faces Miami. So NYCFC, in the best case scenario, will be heading down to Miami to face Messi at home, something that I think the league, from a rating standpoint, is really hoping can happen there. Get that home game for Inter Miami. I think the league internally was a little disappointed with the fact that LAFC lost because of Son. The ratings on that, and I can speak for that one a little bit. Back in September, right? Literally inside the week after I got back from Japan, I was at the U.S. men's national game at Red Bull Arena. It was when they were playing Korea. That crowd at Red Bull Arena was packed, almost standing room only, but it was 90% Korean fans. And I think if Son had made the MLS Cup final, you would see a lot of the similarities that you saw when it came to Shohei Ohtani being in the World Series, where you get that international draw in such a big way. And I'm pretty sure Don Garber probably muttered a few things when LAFC lost. And I get that. The ratings on MLS have not been good. The Apple TV deal, we haven't talked about that. I'll probably talk about that closer to halftime, I think. But the MLS deal, the Apple TV deal, it hinges on getting good ratings. And if a Vancouver team makes it in, San Diego maybe a little bit, but definitely Vancouver, and you get a smaller tier team like, I would almost say in some ways Philadelphia or NYCFC, I think it's going to hurt the ratings there, and you have to worry about that a little bit if you're Don Garber and the rest of the league. You see what I'm anxiously waiting to see what the ratings were for NWSL and also the USL, the Riverhounds. Props and shout outs to them for their win. To see what the ratings were on CBS yesterday, because that's going to be interesting to me. The ratings last year for NWSL were over 900,000 people watched that final, versus I think it was about 450,000 for MLS. And that was LAFC also, by the way. So you have to look at that. USL, I think, drew like 438. So from an apples to apples standpoint, forgetting Apple TV for a sec, but Fox last year, I think, had about 450,000 for the MLS Cup final between RBNY and LAFC. And USL, the USL, the AAA to American soccer, had ratings on their game almost as close as MLS Cup final on their CBS, and I'm fascinated to see what those ratings are going to be, because you had Pittsburgh and you had Tulsa, Oklahoma. Typically, two cities that really are not swimming in like massive populations. So I'm very curious about that. The NWSL final last night, I think, is probably going to crush the ratings there. Especially with that final there with Gotham winning again. We have to ask the question: are we looking at a dynasty? It'll be interesting to see. We'll talk a little bit about that. Right now, again, 11 minutes in, nothing's really happened as yet. So it's been a bit of a sluggish start. NYCFC does have the ball in Philadelphia's zone right now. Hang on a second. Let me just grab my water. Where is it? There it is. Deer Park, that's good water. So, yeah, I mean, right now I'm going to do the press conference with Pascal Janssen, some player when it's all said and done. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But do I think NYCFC can win this game? Yes, I do. Do I think they will win this game? Honestly, sorry, fans, I don't think you will. You're looking at a Philadelphia Union team, and I think I said this at the top. In MLS play at home, Philadelphia was 14-1-4, and if you include Leagues Cup and everything else, they were 16-1-5. 14-1-4. Yeah, something like that. Shit. Hang on a second. I'm gonna clarify that. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, they were 12. Sorry, they were 12-1-4. Yeah, Philadelphia was 12-1-4 at Subaru Park during regular MLS Cup play. And if you include Leagues Cup and everything else, they were 14-1-5 at home. So that is a team that is very confident, rust or not. Oh boy. You look at this and, Alonso Martinez, I mean, he technically didn't have a season as good as he did last year, but at the same time, I think it was a tougher season. So I think his numbers may not have been as good because his goals had dropped a little bit. But the difference is in a sophomore season, your opponents have a lot more footage on you. So when you have somebody that comes out of nowhere and they're like, oh my God, this player is amazing. Part of the reason is because your opponent doesn't have anything to watch on you. Now they do. And he still overcame that anyway. So the fact that he hurt the ACL and he's out until May, June, July of next year. I mean, back in 2021, I remember when Anton Tinnerholm went out and was out for the season. And I remember running into him in the elevator once and talking to him to see how he's doing. You could see like the depression on his face and just the pain of just wanting so badly to be out there, And I remember asking him, in the elevator, I was like, how you doing? And his exact words were, it could be better. And that's what happens. That's what Alonso Martinez and Pereira and O'Neill, I'd say probably too, for different reasons. But these guys are there. And I think the anger and maybe even the self-hatred of the fact that you're not there to be able to help your team when they need it most. The injury to Pereira sucked. I mean, they showed that thing. Apple TV decided to show it twice, which I found really interesting because they had the injury when it initially happened. Okay, fine. You can't do anything about that. But then as they're doing the replay to showcase what happened to Andres Pereira, they have an announcement as it's happening. Turn away because some of you might be squeamish to this. Maybe, this is not a good look as they're showing the footage itself. So I don't get it. But with him out, with Aiden O'Neill out with a yellow card suspension, you're looking at an NYCFC team that's going to put a lot more pressure on the rest of the squad. Rested though they may be, which is a big win. But you're going to be looking at a lot more when it comes to Nico Mercado, Hannes Wolf, who clearly had a better second season than first season. I think Hannes was adapting to the new schedule and adapting to the struggle of having to play over in a new environment where he wasn't familiar. But this year, he knew what he had to do. I think next year could be really good for that guy. I think a lot better for him. But it just took a little time to adapt to a new environment. You have a new city, you have a new continent, you have a new playing style. It takes some time, and I think it's a lot tougher than people realize there. But here, again, now we're 15 minutes in at this point nearly. Still not a thing really happening right now. Philly has the ball. NYCFC did have an opportunity there, but wasn't able to do anything with it. Quick save there by Philly. But yeah, we did have a shot on goal there, right off the pipe actually. So NYCFC did have a shot, but it's still a very slow go right now. Not a whole lot happening. And yeah, a 1-0 final is entirely possible with this. Let me pull up Thought Mob at the minute. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. There we go, 16 minutes in. Pull up Thought Mob. I should have done that before. Yeah, right now, 1 shot on goal overall. 2 fouls by Philadelphia, 1 by NYCFC. Yeah, so far, it's like I said, it's been pretty sluggish right here. No offsides, no yellow cards, nothing. I think this is one of those games that later on, I think it's going to get a little angry. You're going to get some chippiness. NYCFC is trying to break in, lost the ball, but they had the opportunity to get it into the box for Philly. But Philadelphia is trying to work it back down to midfield and knocks out of bounds, and play continues. 16 minutes in at this point. Ore and Bradley Cornell are bitching about something right now. Not sure exactly what they're bitching about. Let's see. Yeah, one of the comments that I got is basically New York bringing great pressure. Yeah, they have to, because if you allow Philadelphia to get into a position where they can get back to their game and get the rust out, I think this is something that they're playing the long game a little bit. Mitch, I'm doing a live stream right now.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Bye. My Pennsylvania guy. I just decided to do that for the funsies of it. But yeah, my Pennsylvania guy actually leads the Streampunk Sports Pennsylvania, and talks to the Eagles and all this kind of stuff. So he's a good dude. He's a very loyal dude. I'm excited for that. But yeah. Anywho's, so like I said, 17 minutes in at this point. Looking at Tavon Gray right now. You got to look at what's going to happen with NYCFC, because, whoa, Nelly, do they have a lot of free agents at the end of the season that you have to ask yourself what they're going to do. Tavon is a possibility there. You got to wonder what's going to happen with Justin Hack. If they lose, is this Maxi Morales' last game? You have to look at him. He's 38 years old at this point. The heart's there, but, as somebody who's 50 years old, the heart's there, but the body may not be. And you have to ask yourself, is this the end for him? Is he going to call it and get probably a statue raised for him, within NYCFC, even more so than, say, Maxime Chanel? What about Thiago Martins? Is Thiago's actually available at the end? He's a free agent after the end of the season. Is Thiago Martins done? At $1.7 million, that is a big chunk of change right there. So you have to ask yourself, is this his last game in an NYCFC uniform? Does he go back to Japan? Who knows? But it's like I said, there's a lot of questions in this case here. Let's see, NYCFC players down right now. I'm not sure exactly who just yet. 18 plus minutes in. NYCFC currently has a free kick opportunity in Philly's zone, probably about 25 yards from the outside of the box, I would say right now, probably about 40 yards out. A little difficult for me to figure that one out, but were they playing the Chicago Fire? It's real easy to tell. Because if you ever watch a Chicago Fire game, you literally see the yard markers where the Bears, Bears, they don't even bother. People complain a lot about, NYCFC playing in at Yankee Stadium and Citi Field, and you're playing in a baseball stadium. Yeah, at least basically there's no literal yard markers or giant Chicago Bears logo in the middle of the pitch. I'm sorry, dude, that's just rough. That's rough. As I mentioned before, this is my New Jersey Generals mug or cup from the original New Jersey Generals from way back in the 1980s. Free with a $20 fill-up of your gas, because that's what used to happen back in Jersey back in the day. New Jersey Generals were really my team back when I was a kid. And then in 1985, with people like Jim Kelly and Doug Flutie, the league cut at the end of the season, and we never had another season after 85, and it broke my little kid heart. Then, of course, the USFL returned. We got 2 more years of the New Jersey Generals, and then they merged with the UFL, and that was the end of that, and I lost them a second time. Anyway, right now, basically, they're looking at the official right now. This is what I should have done. Oh, man, I was going to see if I can do this. I've gotten to know Ted Uncle really, really well. Ted Uncle, I know, you know, a lot of people hate the official, but I like the guy as a person. You know, he's happily retired. We had him on a few weeks ago. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think we had him back on. And I would love to have, big shot, big opportunity there for Philadelphia. And Matt Freese comes up with it. Oy, that was a huge opportunity for Philadelphia and their first real scoring chance. But Matt Freese is on his toes, dove to his left, and was able to make the save and preserve the 0-0 score. Shot from right outside the box. Freese originally had a little trouble with it. Slipped away, and then he kind of like did a quick dive and was able to save it. But props to Matt Freese. There was a reason why he's the starter for U.S. Men's National. We can talk World Cup a little bit later as well. But 21 minutes in, and the first real big scoring opportunity right there. Philadelphia's charging again. Ball's going to probably go out of play or just darn close to it. Is it going to reach the side? Nope. But it's kicked out of bounds by NYCFC, forcing a throw in for Philly. But Philly is starting little by little to start putting pressure on. 21 minutes in, I think they're getting that rust out that I had mentioned earlier. And I think they're starting to basically take over at this point. Nathan Harriel and Maxime Morales having a good little moment between the two. Kind of shared moment, because it's funny, as much as you guys, they hate each other, there's always this small feeling of camaraderie and respect between the two. So NYCFC doing NYCFC's throwing right now. Trying to get it out of the zone, but then booted it almost back to midfield. Got it past midfield there. NYCFC, nope, they haven't say if they can get that ball, they would have had an opportunity to for a scoring chance, but didn't. Philly is starting to move down the pitch now. Shot across and out of play for a goal kick. Right now, like I said, 0-0 at the moment. We're about midway through for the first half. Philly is, like I said, starting to get those legs going a little bit and showcase why they were the supporter shield this year. Here's my question for you guys. If NYCFC loses this game, and most of my fan base here is NYCFC, I give you that. But if NYCFC loses and you have a matchup between Miami and Philadelphia, who do you pick? Who do you root for? Do you root for Lionel Messi, or do you root for the team that basically beat you and got to at that point? You know, the hated Philadelphia Union. Union would have home field at that point. Again, let's see. What's the schedule for next week for the Eagles? It's Thanksgiving weekend also. The Eagles have a Friday start. Oh, fascinating. Interesting. All right, you're saying Lionel Messi in Miami. Okay. The league is probably rooting for a Lionel Messi matchup there. Philly, unfortunately. All right. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, it's funny. I would almost hate to say it, but I kind of would root for Philly for a couple of reasons. Mainly because I got a couple of guys that are covering this game for Philly, and I want to see them get to the finals. It's a neat feeling if you're able to actually see an MLS Cup final in person. It's a magic thing. If actually Philadelphia goes to the finals, I might decide to make the trip there. Pull rank since I own the company and be like, I'm going to this thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But, you know, the league would love Lionel Messi to get into the MLS Cup finals. You know, like I said, I think if they had an LAFC Inter Miami final, I think Don Garber would be just like, you know, that would be like a pure wet dream for him. But not going to happen there. Boy, if Philadelphia, by the way, working down just outside the box, taking a shot, NYCFC is able to clear, but boy, they are really starting to lose pressure on this. NYCFC is trying to roll the ball, play the ball uphill at the moment. But you got to wonder in this case, could Philadelphia take out a Miami team playing on the road? Whew, I think it's going to be damn close, man. You know, I can see that being like a shootout or a 3-2 final kind of a thing. I think Philadelphia is, like I said, I'm really kind of surprised that FC Cincinnati rolled over like they did. They were my original choice to go to the MLS Cup finals in the East, because I figured the way that they lost against Columbus last year, they were not going to make that mistake a second time. So, did that one surprise you? Did Miami actually taking them down 4-0, by the way, on the road? Did that surprise you guys? I admit I was a little bit surprised by the fact that the Whitecaps were able to beat LAFC. LAFC obviously came so ridiculously close. They had the man advantage. They had that shot off the crossbar. They had 2 straight up misses in PK. One off the pipe and then one just straight through. And yeah, that surprised me a little bit on that one. But yeah, all right, 25 minutes in right now. Still nothing's happening. Right now, the passes are 134 to 112 in favor of NYCFC. Currently, NYCFC is 78% in accurate passes versus 75 for Philadelphia. 1 offside, 3 touches for Philly in the opposition's box versus 2 for NYCFC. Interceptions are tied at 3. Clearances is 6 for Philly. And then one big save. That one big save by Matt Freese a few minutes ago, where the ball nearly trickled into the net, despite the fact he was able to make an initial save. I don't foresee fatigue playing a factor on this. I feel personally I'll probably be more fatigued just basically talking about this game than these players are going to be. But that's also because I'm 50 years old and clearly not in good shape versus these guys. I forget who it was. Was it Nico Merkel or I think it was Nico was showcasing the abs for a quick second there. NYCFC coming in the box. They have an opportunity. They can clear. And holy shit, they scored! NYCFC scores right now. Basically 26 minutes in at this point. Maxi Morales scores to the left side of the box with a right-footed kick. And the New York City Football Club have done exactly what they needed to do in the first half to take the fans out of this. Holy crap, a lot of turnout right now of NYCFC fans, not just the supporter section, but just in general. And the 5'3" Maxi Morales pulls a Wolverine and scores. I say that because Wolverine is actually 5'3" in the comics, so I figured Maxi Morales being 5'3", let me throw a Wolverine reference out there. That was huge. Wow. So what does this do at this point? I think if you're Bradley Cornell, I think if you're Philadelphia, you treat it as business as usual. You don't actually let it change exactly how you're operating everything. You don't let it get to your head. That's the biggest thing. But Maxi was great pass across. Maxi was wide open right there. It was just him and Andre Blake. Blake could do nothing about it right now. And yeah, Maxi with an absolute dynamite goal he's going to remember forever, especially if this team wins. Because if this team wins, it's his goal. It's going to set the tone. And if NYCFC loses, it may very well be the last goal of his career. So you remember it that way. Now, if you're NYCFC, and I think this is the difference now between Pascal Janssen a little bit and what Nick Cushing used to do. With Nick Cushing, this team used to make a habit out of playing on their heels a little bit. They would be up 1, and then they would kind of play it a little easier. They would act like they were up 1. I think, honestly, from what I've seen in that locker room, Pascal Janssen would probably lose his shit royally 10 times top to bottom on that, if that ended up happening. Now, again, Philadelphia at this point, you knock down Apollo Creed in the first round. Apollo's going to come out. So you have to look at it from this perspective. You punch the opponent in the mouth, they're going to come back out fighting. But I think if you're Philadelphia, you don't really treat it like it's a big deal. NYCFC statistically has been far better on the road when they score first versus actually playing from behind. So this is exactly what NYCFC needed right here to be able to set this tone and keep this going. Again, a lot of games to be played right now. We're just barely clicking into 30 minutes at this point. So I'm interested now. I wasn't really sure if NYCFC was going to score first. I kind of had it pegged that Philly was, but this is what they needed. If Philadelphia ends up losing this game, and NYCFC moves on as they're driving down right now on a 2-on-2, 3-on-2 coming in. Nope. No, that was it. Almost had an opportunity to get another shot on goal there. Last season, NYCFC, like I said, they beat FC Cincinnati in 3 and then lost at this point. So already the team is not shut out. Last year they were shut out to RBNY at home. So the fact that that they got a goal here already puts them ahead in a lot of different ways versus last year. Not just in points, but also in progress. I think for this NYCFC team, I think it's MLS Cup Finals or bust. You know, I mean, everyone will say it's the win and everything like that. Fine. But if you're an NYCFC fan, would you, if you lost to Miami next week, would you walk away being like, okay, I'm happy? Or would you be like, this sucks, I hated this season? Let me know in the comments on that. I have a feeling a lot of NYCFC fans will be like, ECF, losing to Messi, I can live with it. I think for Philadelphia, if this is a one and done, this would be maybe another example of the fact that the layoff is too big. I think a lot of matches also end up playing into luck a little bit. And sometimes you see teams where if a star player goes down, it forces everyone else to have to pick up the slack accordingly because you can rely just a little bit too much on one player to do everything. So I think if NYCFC can pick up a second goal here, go up 2-0, and go into half 2-0, that's the biggest key. I think they really need to go up 2-0 at halftime in order to put a control on this game. You know, 1-0, Philly knows they're back into it easily enough. But 31 minutes in, NYCFC just clears it back. Let's see. Hannes Wolf with a pissed off look on his face. And he got for our game's first yellow card, too. Is it one of Hannes? That could be dangerous. I mean, listen, you throw Hannes out there regardless. You know, you don't play it casual unless you're up by 3. Yeah, Hannes. Oh, yeah. Hannes with a little bit of an axe kick to the lower part of Philadelphia's play. Right in the, I think right in the the quad area right there. An accidental axe kick. Good for yellow. But if you're Hannes, if you're NYCFC and you're Pascal Janssen, who cares about basically the yellow card? You got to play this thing aggressively. You cannot play this conservatively. You play to win today. You don't play to worry about Miami next week. So, but Philadelphia with a free kick right now, about 15 yards from the box. Let's get in the box, header out. NYCFC is able to clear it near the halfway center of the pitch. Back out. And still holding out. There we go. Philly's still trying to get their legs back into the box right now. And we have another down player at this point. Ty Baribo is with his hands up in the air, being like, "What the shit?" Is he getting yellow? It doesn't look like. Who's that? That's down. Oh, Justin Hack is down. Protect Justin Hack. Put him in a bubble for any reason you can. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a foul on that. I think it was just a couple players getting tripped over each other. Oh, no, there is a yellow card that came out. Did Baribo get a yellow now? Again, I'm going to say the same thing I did when I said the Hannes Wolf. Yep, Ty Baribo is the yellow card. Team's leading goal scorer. That's not, like I said, that's could be dangerous in some ways too. Baribo with that absolute golden start to his season. I think, what was it, 6 goals in 3 games? Really setting the tone for the young man. But that's, again, another thing that NYCFC really needs. The Pigeons need that. Because, again, you've got to take Philadelphia out of this. You've got to start planting seeds of doubt. And does this change how Bradley Carnell plays this game? I don't think so. But I think they might be a little more careful with Baribo, I think, than they would be with, and Hannes Wolf would be with NYCFC. Argument still happening. Damiani's complaining. You might be complaining about ball placement. You know, when you reach a certain age, you do have to worry about your ball placement. So, Bradley Carnell's pissed. One thing I've learned from talking to Ted Uncle, you know, when you're an official, everybody hates you. Just accept it; it's part of the job. But one of the things that Ted Uncle had said that was really, really interesting, and you can find the interview, either the first or second interview on our channel, is he said one of the hardest parts of being an official isn't what happens on the pitch. It's VAR. Because you have 20,000 fans, 30,000 fans, you know, sometimes more, waiting for you to decide what to do. You have everybody in the booth waiting for you to decide what you're going to call. You have everybody on TV waiting for you. All eyes are sitting there waiting for you and what you're going to decide to do in this case here. And he says the amount of pressure on you to hurry that up and not make the right decision is the hardest part of this whole thing. And that was interesting. You know, I didn't realize that. I figured basically the judgment calls, the snap calls, and another yellow card. Whoa, boy, this is starting to get feisty. Who's that? No, Maxi Morales is pleading his case right now. Glesnes with his hands on his head. Maxi, Maxi trips. Was that Gliznes? No. Maxi's complaining that it was an embellishment. But I think he's going to still get the yellow. Yep, he's getting the yellow anyway. Yeah, Maxi. You know what's funny? One of the new rules that was supposed to be in place this season is only the captain of the team is allowed to sit there and plead their case to the official. That was the new rule that they had put in place. I was there for that meeting. And that was the new rule in place. But apparently that never happened. Nothing ever gave them that. So now it's just a free-for-all in general. But I think it was a smart move, but it didn't actually work out like they wanted it to. But Maxi with the yellow, again, he will go full throttle anyway. But Philadelphia starting to basically work their way back down the line again. Scratching my eye, hang on a sec. So Philly with a shot across and go. Nope. They're going to keep it in bounds, and I think tipped it. I think it's going to be a corner for Philly. So, yeah, I think this is the first corner we've got of the game right now. 37th minute at the moment. First corner of the game. Philadelphia has an opportunity to equalize this and draw it to 1-1. Again, I think NYCFC needs to actually get this to 2-0. If they don't get this to 2-0, hey Kyle, my photographer's up there just saw on camera. If Philadelphia needs to get this to 2-0, I'm sorry, NYCFC needs to get this to 2-0 by halftime because they got to show really basically put the screws to this team right now because 1-0 doesn't mean anything. Shot across, header, and Matt Freese with an easy save on a 4-mile-an-hour bounce. For Matt Freese, it's a little weird too because playoffs for him. Obviously, you got to wonder how much time he has left with NYCFC and whether Tomas Romero is going to be the heir apparent in this case. But 4 years ago, Matt Freese got a start against NYCFC in the COVID game, which is actually my first time over at Subaru Park. It was a great game because for whatever reason there was a press issue and they ran out of space in the press box. So the PR person was like, "Are you guys okay with sitting in the executive suite?" NYCFC working its way down right outside the box. A good opportunity right now. Shot and a great save by Andre Blake, leaping to his right side, making the save on that. Good opportunity. I think it was Agustino Ojeda. I know some people aren't crazy about Ojeda, but I really like what this kid's doing. He's only 20 years old. You got to give him a little bit of time right now. Great shot on that. Great shot on goal and a punch away for a corner kick. Yeah, Agustino Ojeda with a good right-footed shot to the corner. Andre Blake with an equally good save at this point, but NYCFC does get the corner kick on this. But Agustino Ojeda is only 20 years old. He had a couple of challenges with showing up late for games when he was playing in previous leagues, but I think he's getting his crap together, and he's adapting just like Hannes Wolf is to being here. Corner in, header out of the box, and Philadelphia kicks it way back to midfield. NYCFC will recover at that point. But I don't remember what the hell it was. I was talking about something. I forget what it was. That's usually how this works. Yeah. But Philadelphia trying to get back into this game right now. Shot down to the 18-yard box. Philadelphia does have possession just outside the box. Shot and up and out of play. Good kick, but just a little too high, just a little too far to the right. And NYCFC, Oloski with the shot. NYCFC will be taking the ball out as a goal kick. And we continue play. Who texted me? Pat Bernard with a great tic-tac play. Yeah, agreed. My guys are doing a live stream right now of Philadelphia Union. I guess the Union, or the Eagles lost today. Did they? Oh shit! The Eagles lost to Dallas. Oh boy, that's gonna piss off a lot of fans. Jalen Hurts did great for my fantasy team, so I'm okay with that because I'll win this week. But yeah, Philadelphia loses. I'll talk a little bit about some of the other things going on in New York area sports, probably at halftime. Once that rolls around, I'll be talking about NWSL, USL. I'll be talking about what a shitty day it has been for New York City area sports. NFL, Major League Baseball, something came down the pipe that really pissed my wife off. I'll talk about that come halftime. Right now, we're 40 minutes in, so halftime should be fairly close. I think we're probably only going to get like 3 or 4 minutes of added time here. But we'll talk about a little bit about that, the NWSL with Gotham and their late score. But a free kick by NYCFC. Now it's into the box. And back out of the box. Chase down. Back to midfield. NYCFC is still maintaining control. A little bit of a dump and chase right now, but header out by Philly. Philly does take the ball back to midfield and kicked out of bounds. So Philly will have a throw in near the midfield mark. Olaski trying to make an opportunity happen there. Shit, I've been doing this for an hour already. Good for me. That freeze coming up quick. Makes a save, rolls it out. And NYCFC with about 4 minutes left plus added time. Tavon passes it across. Ojeda and Philly has an opportunity right now as they're driving towards the box. Just on the right side of the box. Shot across and through the box just on a great opportunity for Ty Baribo. He knows it. He knew he had that. But that ball was never going to go in, but boy, that was a close shot because it got past Matt Freese. Right across bad angle. Ty Baribo couldn't angle it back in. But a huge opportunity for Philly on that one to equalize this game. And Baribo's pissed at himself. He knew he had that. He knew he had the open shot. He knew he had the opportunity. He knew he had Matt Freese passed on that and just couldn't shoot the ball past. So we remain 1-1. Match stats right now, passes 222 to 190, passes completed 168 to 126, pass completion 82 to 74. So those numbers are NYCFC's numbers. Shoot the ball up and out of play. It'll be a goal kick for Andre Blake. Maxi Morales is showing up a lot on camera. They are really showing a lot with him, not only the goal and the yellow card, but his very presence right here. And again, you have to ask the question. If NYCFC loses, is this his last game? If they win, is this his last season? You know, it's going to be fascinating to find out whether he's going to hang up his cleats. You know, he's got a daughter, I think, in Argentina right now. So I'd be curious to see what he decides to do. I think if he does wrap this up, and he's calling it, I think he goes down in NYCFC history as probably, could you say, the most influential player in team history? You know, I mean, there's some other names out there like Maxime Chenot, you know, other players like that. But I think when you think about his longevity and you think about his impact and you think about his height, let's throw it out there too. He's not exactly a big dude there. You know, he's got that Spud Webb energy, you know, where it's like, I'll make up for the height with just passion. Philadelphia with an opportunity, couldn't header it now across. And NYCFC out with a goal kick, we're in the 44th minute at this point. Kai Wagner with an opportunity, couldn't make anything happen. Bitching at Damiani. But a possible opportunity there, but couldn't get the header across. I don't think, honestly, if there was enough juice on it, it would have been a problem for Matt Freese anyway. But the players are starting to get a little pissed off at this point. I think if NYCFC goes in at halftime 1-0, which I think they'll accept. I did talk about this earlier, where 2-0 is exactly what NYCFC needed to buy themselves a cushion. I don't think a 1-goal cushion is enough right now, not against a team like Philly. But you're going to have to assume that second half, regardless of what happens in the first half, second half, Philadelphia's fangs are coming out. And I meant that actually I didn't mean that as a joke. But I'm going to run with it anyway because their mascot is Fang, so their fangs are coming out. That was accidental, but I'm running with it anyway. I'm taking credit for it. But Wagner with a throw in the 45th minute. We'll find out in a second how many minutes of added time. I'm going to guess maybe 4, 3, maybe 4. But like I said, coming up at the half, we will be talking about what's going on with the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the New York Mets. Oh, great opportunity, but they're not done yet. Diving save by Matt Freese inside 5 yards. Diving save is up the save to the right. Great opportunity for Philly for the equalizer again. But it was a tight angle shot. There wasn't a lot of wiggle room on that shot, but it was quick. And Freese had to be quick on that. He couldn't get the rebound. And Glesnes had an opportunity to be able to try and get a rebound and a second shot there, but couldn't do it. But Matt Freese takes it out to midfield. Statistically, Freese has never been good on passes of over 30 yards. He's actually been, ironically, one of the lowest in the league. 5 minutes of added time, by the way, brought to you by Celsius. Statistically, on passes of 30 yards or longer, as goalkeepers go, his pass success rate's been pretty low. But that is one of the very, very, very small challenges in his game. He's got the speed, he's got the mindset, he's got the Zen mindset too, which I think helps a lot. And, the fact that he took the starter's job for U.S. men's national away from Matt Turner and everybody else out there is indicative of that mindset that he has. When I met him back in 2023 in his first year, he was a backup to Barraza. And I asked him, just the usual question. It's his start, his experience and everything. And I always throw in like a dumb question in there just randomly. And I asked him, Marvel or DC? And he said, Asimov. And I'm like, oh, that's a big one. Because he actually would rather read science fiction than get caught up in like anything like that. Now, did Matt Freese know what his FIFA rating for speed was? Yes, he did. Did he know that it was around 29 for his speed? Yes, he did. Did he respond to that? Yes, he did. He talked about the fact that he used to win track championships in high school, and he used to run track and had like a good speed. He never really ran a 40 or anything like that, but he won he won a lot of titles. Ooh, shit! Elbow to the face right there. Gonna be a yellow card. Is Damiani gonna get a yellow card on that elbow? Raul Gustavo is down right now, checking to see if there's blood. But the elbow kind of came up. Actually, I got to see it again to find out if it was an accidental or not. Even if it was accidental, it should be a yellow. But that arm came up and whacked him right from here to here. So doesn't look like it's a yellow, and it doesn't look like any blood on Gustavo. But this second half could get violent. Oh, it's going to be great. But 5 minutes of added time. We're technically 47 minutes, so I'll say probably another 4 minutes as it stands right now with that little delay involved. But yeah, Matt Freese had a 29 rating in speed out of 100 for on FIFA, and we asked him about it post game. He's like, "Yeah, I used to run track in high school and win trophies." But I think that's the general rule when it comes to sports games in general, and you see that with Madden too, where it's like you got this guy who can do a 4.5 40 because they're a kicker. It's like, oh, your speed is 12. 48th minute right now. Volley up in the air and ball's out of play again. Throw in for NYCFC. Tavon. Every year, Tavon has a new hairstyle. I'm really curious to see what he has next year. Last year was actually my favorite hairstyle for Tavon. But anyway, hopefully the NYCFC still has him next year too. Because I think part of the problem that NYCFC has right now is it doesn't have that persona guy. Tavon is that persona, that charisma dude, that just kind of oozes it. You see a lot of guys out there, they play it even, they play it, Hannes is even keel, Maxi Morales, Matt Freese. All these guys don't have like that internal fire and charisma where they walk into a room and just ooze confidence and energy. They play it a little bit lower, which is great. It's their thing. But I think NYCFC needs more of that NYCFC personality there. So shot across and out of play. Philadelphia with a quick corner. They're really trying to get this thing going quick right now. 49th minute at this point. 5 minutes of added time. Might be a 6 or 7 at this point. But Philadelphia with an opportunity for an equalizer on another corner. And that would be massive for their motivation going into the second half right now. And no matter how this slices, if this stays even 1-0, shot across. NYCFC with a break and an opportunity. 2-on-2. Yep. They're on a 2-on-2 right there. Sorry, I was just moving away from my ring light. Gustavo coming across. Shot across the Bucks. Can it reach? Nope. Hannes couldn't get that in time. Where's that one? No, sorry. And ball's out of play. I think if you're Philadelphia, even if you're down 1-0, you got to be proud of that first half, especially with how you broke that thing up. Pass back to Matt Freese, who boots the ball into midfield. Now it's just if for NYCFC, you just got to try and get away with a 1-goal lead if you can. NYCFC's possession. Nico wants a yellow card on that on the trip. He's not going to get one. Pascal Janssen wants one as well. But again, not going to get one. Yeah, you look at Nico Mercal's impact on this team. This team is 6-1, on road games since he joined. And that's an obscene number. And that, I believe, does it for the first half. So, yes, at the end of the first half, the New York City Football Club is ahead 1-0 right now. I am, of course, Scott Schertzen. I am almost a Z-list celebrity. Let me just update that. There we go. So, if you're NYCFC, are you happy with this first half? If you're Philadelphia, are you happy with this first half? Thiago and Maxi Morales are fighting with the officials on, wanting another yellow card or that. Not going to get it. Yeah. Thiago put his hand on the official, but I don't think it was anything angry. But Maxi's pissed. Maxi's freaking livid right now. But overall, you got to be happy with the way NYCFC played this first half. This is something where they came out of the box. They scored when they needed to and were able to control things a little bit that way. So, anyway. So, if you're NYCFC, are you happy with this first half? The fans probably are at this point. They made the trip down from the Bronx. Some of them may have waved me as I went by because I'm in Jersey over here. Okay, so now that I have 10 or 15 minutes, I figured let me talk about a couple other things going on. Credit, like I said, to Gotham for another NWSL championship. Late score, Rose Lavelle. I think 90 minutes and 5 yesterday for the 1-0 win, celebrating a second championship. And the question you got to ask yourself when it comes to Gotham, are we too early to start considering using the word dynasty? Is that possible that we can start thinking about that? I think it's a little too early, but I think if they make another finals trip, I think you can make that argument. But you have to look at that team. 8th place didn't matter. They went into KC. They took out KC. They get to the finals. They win the finals. And it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Because when they won the NWSL 2 years ago, they didn't have anything. They didn't have a celebration. They didn't have a parade. Not even basically lunch at Benihana. There was a mix-up in the internal part of the office. The people who were involved are no longer with the team at this point. But because they didn't expect the team to actually win a championship, they never planned anything. So as a result, they win the NWSL, they win the trophy, and they got no one to share it with. That happened. I know the details of that. I'm not going to indulge in any more than that. But like I said, suffice it to say, the people that made that decision are no longer with the team at this point, and no, I don't know where they are. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to do that again. I don't know if they're going to get a parade. They probably won't. Maybe they'll get something with the city of Harrison in Jersey, key to the city, kind of like what NYCFC did 4 years ago. Maybe they'll do some kind of a display at Red Bull Arena. They'll make a day of it on, I don't know, next week or something like that, where they could have a full celebration, get the fans to come out. I think, honestly, in a lot of ways, I think it's a better option than even having like a key to the city and have the mayor there. Because, the mayor of Harrison, I don't even know who the mayor of Harrison is. But I think if they had something at Red Bull Arena on a Saturday, they had the speeches, they had the unveiling, you get the fans there, you get the interaction going on. I think, honestly, if they were able to pull that off, I think that's the way you got to go if you're Gotham FC. On the Pittsburgh Riverhounds side of things, the Riverhounds also with a 1-0 win in PK. Credit to them for beating Tulsa in Tulsa. Their goalkeeper pitches another shutout. Credit to his name, Eric Dick. Credit also to their head coach, Robbie Vincent, who took over as the interim coach when the main head coach was no longer able to continue. He picked up, ran with it, and they got the championship out of it. So I say this also because of the fact I got 2 guys in Pittsburgh that cover the USL and cover the Pittsburgh Riverhounds all the way through. Weird thing about Streampunk in this case. I'm going to talk about this. In 2021, before we even incorporated a Streampunk, it was my first year covering NYCFC, and they won the MLS Cup final. In our second year of covering Major League Soccer, my guys down in Philadelphia covered the Union for the first time. They went to the MLS Cup final. They didn't win, but they went to the final. 2024, we started adding lacrosse into it. The Albany Firewolves, in our first year covering the Albany Firewolves, go to the NLL finals. And this year, in the USL side, in our first year covering USL, and specifically our first year ever covering the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, they go to the finals and they win. I don't know what it is, but Stream Punk, we have 4 different teams in a 4-year period that have 5. Well, we'll do this proper. 4 different teams since 2021 that we covered in our first year went to their respective finals, with 2 of them winning. And one more in this case as well, Seton Hall, in our second year of covering Seton Hall, won the NIT in our second year of covering them. Are we magic? I don't know. But I will say this. If you want us to cover your team, I will look at offers. Contact me at info@StreamPunkENT. Let me know what your rates are and how much you're willing to pay us. And I will send people out there because, like I said, at this point, we have 4 different teams across two sports that have made it to the finals and or won in our first year of covering the team and won their second year. So maybe we're doing some magic there. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, if you have a professional sports franchise and you'd like us to come out, contact me at info@StreamPunkENT, and we can talk numbers and we can talk rates, and maybe I can figure something out and send some guys over there. How badly do you want to get to the finals is my question. Anyway, as I mentioned also from the beginning, this has been kind of a shitty day for sports in the New York City area. Yesterday, obviously, credit to Gotham and everything. But today, the Jets lost 23-10 at home against the Ravens. The Giants were up by 10, 27-17 in the fourth quarter, and lost in overtime 34-27. This game broke me. This game broke me as a 40-plus year fan of the Giants, going back to 1983, and Scott Brunner as quarterback. This game today, the Giants and the Jets since 2017 have the worst records in that time, in an almost 10-year span. They are number 1 and number 2, Giants and Jets. They are the only team since 2017 to lose 100 games or more during that span. And it's brutal. And then word came down the pipeline. If you're a Mets fan, I don't know how you feel about this, but popular player Brandon Nimmo got traded to Texas. Yeah, who did he get traded for? Who did he get traded for? I had it. I had it and I just lost it. Marcus Semien. Yeah, he got traded for Marcus Semien. And if you're a Mets fan, my wife had dirty words for this one. She loved Brandon Nimmo. The dude batted .262, 25 homers, 92 RBIs. He had that thing whenever he got a walk, he'd run to first base. Didn't drop it. He bolted out there. And they brought in, granted, Gold Glove winner, Marcus Semien, who had a Gold Glove at second base. Okay, fine. But it is a tough loss because the Mets, Brandon Nimmo was as popular to them as Pete Alonso was, as Jeff McNeil, and a lot of these guys have been around for a long time. So it's kind of sucks. I don't know with the schedule whether or not he's going to come, he's playing against the Mets when he comes back to Texas. But good win for Texas if that's, if it's a one-on-one trade. But if you're a Mets fan, it sucks. If you're a Giants fan, it sucks. If you're a Jets fan, it sucks. And depending, today we'll know in about 45 minutes, game time, whether being an NYCFC or Philadelphia fan is going to suck. So, but what do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Do you think this is going to be a game that's going to go into overtime? Do you think NYCFC can hold the lead? Do you think that Philadelphia can take the lead? Do you think I can get them? I was going to say, do you think I can actually finish that drink without coughing? I don't think I can. Oh, right down the wrong pipe there. Drinking my water, drinking my wake-up juice. You know what? Looking at some stuff here. Like I mentioned, speaking of Mets, when I was in Japan 3 months ago, and ironically left 3 months ago, 3 months ago today. When I was in Japan, I found this. This is a drink called Mets Black. They have Mets Black and Mets White. Mets Black, it's a drink that's literally called Mets, and if you look at it, it's got the actual Mets logo on there too, which is kind of funny, like the old 90s style Mets style. Much like the Mets themselves, when you basically take your first swig of this and you're starting, it's actually pretty good. You kind of like it. And then the more you drink it, the worse it gets. And by the end, you're kind of disappointed with it. So I feel it's somewhat indicative to the Mets themselves. But just kind of killing time until halftime kicks over, and we're back into the second half right now. But I miss Japan big time. I think one of the greatest experiences of my entire life was going to a Baystars game. If you ever get the chance to go to a baseball game over in Japan, do it. Tickets are obnoxiously cheap. We were 11 rows back, first base side, bought them day of for $42 a ticket, day of, and that was insane. Sorry, there was a weird thing on TV with the commercial. So yeah, they're making a big advertisement. MLS will be part of Apple TV. Well, yeah, because your ratings suck ass, pal. So yeah, this since this year, no blackouts. What else they got? I got a little highlights. Do we have any other text making how amazing this is? I don't think here it's all on Apple TV. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you think this happened because the Apple was being nice or because the ratings were ass and they're like, we got to do something about this. And keep in mind also that I believe it was Betfair, where if you pay down a $5 bet, you got Apple TV for the MLS season pass for the entire season. This is actually kind of a win for me because even though I have been a sports writer for Major League Soccer for 4 years, I have been on press conferences with Brad Sims. I have been meetings with Brad Sims. I've been on press conferences with Darren Garber. I still had to pay for MLS season pass. So not just y'all, but myself as well. So this is weirdly enough a positive for me. I think with the deal that was in place, and I haven't talked about this, so this is as good a time as any, as we got a couple minutes. The announcement came down a few days ago that MLS and Apple TV are divorcing. So the original plan was for an opt-out in 2027, and then with the contract going all the way through 2032. Now it's going to be going to 2029, and they're going to call it at that point. And MLS gets an additional, I believe, $50 million in the deal across the entire period there. But clearly this is something that MLS has really come to regret. And if you're an NYCFC fan that's been around for a couple of years, you might remember the fact that if the Yankees were playing, you had to sit there and watch games for NYCFC on an app that was frankly just terrible. The app sometimes didn't work. If you were in New York City, sometimes it would black out in your own city for reasons I don't freaking remember. But people in the Bronx, in Queens, in Brooklyn, Manhattan, they literally could not watch NYCFC on this app because they were blacked out. I was in Jersey. I could watch it, but they couldn't, which is really dumb. So the decision now to basically cut ties 3 years early, this still means that there's another additional 4 years on this deal. But I think, and the way I put this in the video earlier this week, we've all been in relationships where you wake up one day and you're like, this is never going to work. You have that come to Jesus moment, as they call it, and you're like, this is never going to work. It's not going to fly. So let's just call it. MLS and Apple TV had that decision. They made the decision there. They're like, we're done. We're out. But what was interesting about this also is I think Apple TV got exactly what they needed out of this. Because MLS looks bad. Obviously, they got messy. It didn't work. They're trying to scramble right now. Because, again, I talked about this earlier. The TV ratings are really bad in the MLS Cup finals. I don't know what it's going to be, but I don't think there's any way they're going to beat NWSL as far as the ratings numbers goes. But if you look at this from Apple TV's perspective, yeah, they paid $25 million a year. They're going to pay, I think like $300 million across the entire deal now just to get out of the deal, which for Apple, they make, I think, $368 billion a year. $30 million to them or $300 million to them doesn't even count as money, which really is unfathomable. But you look at that, they got exactly what they needed out of this. They had an opportunity to showcase to the world what it is they're able to do when it comes to video quality. And the quality, give it credit. Apple TV's quality when it comes to MLS is good. Do we like the paywall? No, we don't. Do we like the fact that the broadcasters are a lot of times actually in a studio and not at the game? No, we don't. We've been down that road before. It does suck. But their AV quality is top tier. And that's exactly what I think they wanted out of this and what Apple TV wanted to do, to say, look at this. I can give you NBA playoffs. I can give you NBA playoffs that look like this. I can give you the World Series. I can give you, I can give you cricket in the U.S. All those underserved sports that nobody ever talks about, cricket, rugby. If they want to do that, they can do that too, and really attract that international audience. Again, it would be places where they actually have an iPhone, which not every place around the world does, and Apple TV isn't available in all parts of the world. But, could you see Apple TV getting the Super Bowl at some point? I could. They just print money in a way that nobody's ever seen before. So Apple TV, and by the way, we're going to be starting the second half in a couple minutes. Apple TV got exactly what they needed out of this deal. MLS comes out looking really, really bad. And that's what usually happens with a breakup. One looks good, one doesn't look good. And Apple TV looks the better for it. It looks like the crowds have gotten there pretty good at this point. Decent crowd. Maybe some of them got there a little bit late. But, yeah, Dallas ends up beating the Eagles. So I figured a lot of the plans weren't going to be there because of that. They'll be sitting on the sidelines just watching this just on regular TV. But here we are getting underway for the second half. Let me just change that real quick. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, decent turnout now at this point. I think a lot of the players, a lot of the fans have come out at this point. It's got to be cold there. Imagine. NYCFC gets control to start the second half, and we are underway. We are 45:07 into the second half at this point. So you have to expect that Philadelphia is going to use the momentum of the end of the first half to come out full throttle and throw everything that they can to get this game tied up. I think if you're NYCFC, you got to pick up that second goal. You got to be able to figure out a way to basically make this a 2-goal game, because 1 goal is not going to be enough. And you do not want to let Philadelphia believe up here that they can come back. And that's your biggest concern if you're NYCFC. You've got to take Philadelphia's brain out of this. Maxi's down on the field at this point, down on his knees. NYCFC does maintain possession at this point. Sends it back into their own zone, but they are maintaining possession. Kick back to Matt Freese, who just casually holds on to it. Kicks it back out to midfield, 30-yard pass. Header back by Philly and out of play, so it'll be an NYCFC throw-in. About 15 yards away from the box. I'd say about 10 yards, 15 yards away from the box. One of the things that we're probably going to ask Pascal Janssen actually afterwards is what was said at halftime. This is going to be an interesting one from that perspective. What did he say at halftime? If you're NYCFC, you got to be proud of the fact that you got the lead. You went into halftime with the lead, but you got to play like you're not. Maybe that's what I'll ask him. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people. Like Hudson River Blue has a couple people down there right now. Latino Sports has a photographer down there. I got my 2 guys, but they'll handle the Philly side. Ball's inside NYCFC's box. They kick it back out to midfield, but it is still maintained possession by Philly, who's actually just inside the offensive zone right there. Trying to set up. Trying to build outside the right side of the box right now for Philly. Trying to build them tight. NYCFC's defense has actually been really good today. They've been able to hold pretty well. A bend and not break kind of a setup. There were definite opportunities there towards the end of the second half, or the end of the first half. You had the 2 opportunities there. Are you concerned a little bit about the fact that Matt Freese had 2 saves and couldn't handle the rebound? Couldn't handle it, and basically almost you got to ask yourself that question about whether that's a concern or not. I don't think it is, but if you're Philadelphia, you actually I think you have to come out with this with a lot of confidence to be like, we played really well once we got our bearings going. And another couple players down on the field. 2 NYCFC players run into each other. Maxi Morales and is that Nico? Did they bounce off each other right there? Oh, yeah. 49th minute right now. Still 1-0 NYCFC. NYCFC maintaining control. Pigeons are holding on. And, boy, everybody's just out knocking out. Kevin O'Toole just takes a tumble. He's down now. You're going to see a lot of this. There's going to be some fighting breaking out. Bradley Cornell with his arms out, wondering what the hell's going on here. But yeah, this is going to be one. This could be one of those games where by the end of it, you see like Matt Freese coming across the field and getting involved, because that's where this is where the hostility I think is going to get probably around the 75th minute. Philly maintains control and nicely done. Pass across. I don't think they're going to break through. Just outside the box. Kicked out of play for a throw in for Philly. On the sidelines, about 3 yards into the box, about 15 yards in. And he decides to take it from just outside the box. Looking camera, the far side of the camera right there. Throw in inside the box. Header out of the box by NYCFC. Header back towards the box. Header out of the box. Header into the box. Kick out of the box. And Philly maintains control. I think, yep. A kick back, and Andre Blake comes all the way out of the box to maintain control there. New York City is doing a solid job of controlling everything despite the loss of Alonso Martinez and Pereira and O'Neal. I think they've really done a good job today of coming together and realizing their responsibilities and realizing what they need to do in that loss. Ball goes out of play for a corner for Philly. We got a first corner kick of the second half here. Matt Freese is currently barking orders. Again, good dude. I think he's on a clock with New York City though. He goes to Europe, I think, within a year. Slight opportunity for Philly on that. Kicks the ball out, and Matt Freese is going to take it out for a goal. Philly always chokes in the playoffs. Yeah. You know, they had the championship 3 years ago. The finals 3 years ago. Like I said, our first year covering Philly. But can Philly come back here? You know, New York City has done what they've needed to do. You know, it hasn't really been flashy. It hasn't really been exciting necessarily. It's been kind of frankly, for lack of a better word, a dull match. But that's exactly what New York City needs. Possible opportunity. Andre Blake has to slide across. And the box, just inside the box, maintain control. But it's been a little bit of, like I said, a sluggish match at this point. Let's see, what are we looking at? Shots are currently 3-2 in favor of Philly. And Nico's back down again. What happened here? A trip. Yeah, trip and a little bit of foot tangle. Grabs the back of his heel. Maybe he got stepped on. But no yellow again. This is one of those things where I think the officials a lot of times just let the guys play. Because that was another thing Ted Uncle had talked about with us. Is like, at the end of the day, you want to try your damnedest as an official to not influence a game of this magnitude. If something is absolutely blatant, sure. But general rule of thumb is you try your best to not sit there and throw yellow cards unless basically the team they're asking for it. That frees across. New York City trying to get out of the box. Gets it out of the box, but Philly's starting to swarm. Again, like I said, if you're in New York City, you've got to keep the fans out of it. You do not let Duke Nation and Sons of Ben get back into this game. Pass across New York with an opportunity. They can get a clear. Oh, and a great stop, and it was not done yet. New York City just inside the box. Pass across. Yeah, Philly's defense is really starting to show right now. And they're really showcasing why they went, like I said, 14-1-5 at home this season across every single match, including Leagues Cup and the rest of it. I think the longer this goes, the better opportunity Philly has to be able to draw and make a tie this game up. trying to break through, but they're not able to break through that. Now Philly's got the ball back. Can they hold on to it, though, is the question. Tavon's swarming. And a trip, and do we see yellow on this, or are we just getting a regular foul? Nope, not even that. And the drum beats carry on. Right now the ball is about midfield. We're just started the 55th minute at this point. Philly's taking the ball across, trying to work their way into the box at this point. In the corner. Try to get a pass across, blocked away by a defender for New York. And back out for another throw in. I think Harriel's trying to plead his case for that yellow card from before. Another stop, another throw in for New York, or for Philly rather. Kai Wagner picking up a different ball because he doesn't like the ball he's holding, so he wants to hold another ball. Pass across into the box, out of the box. Ojeda just takes it. Oh shit! Oh, whoa! Andre Blake came way too far out right there, and I think that was Agustino Ojeda from like the midfield. I think Blake hurt himself on that. Oh my God! A weird, huge opportunity for Ojeda. Smart thinking right there. You know, an opportunity, left-footed shot. Yeah, from his own side, and ball came across. I don't think it would have gone into the net. I think it was going to bounce right off the side. But Ojeda with really some smart thinking right there. Blake came way too far out of the box. Blake had to slide across a right-handed slap to knock the ball out of play. It'll be a corner, but he was a little slow getting up. Wow, very smart. Like I said, this is what I'm talking about with Ojeda. I think, you know, there's potential in this kid. He's just young. He's 20 years old. Blake is up. I think he's in pain, but there's no way in hell he's coming out. But corner kick opportunity for New York on that one. And header up. Just knocked back out of the box. Philly tries to take it back out again. Philly with a free kick. Midway through their own spot right now. 57th minute at this point. New York City is up 1-0 at the moment. And we have a delay because Andre Blake is down again. Grabbing his right leg, his hamstring. I don't know if it's a cramp thing or what's going on, but he's in a lot of pain, but I wonder if it's just the fact that it's just freezing up a little bit on him. I mean, the good news is for Philly, Rick is available. And you trust him as a solid backup right there if Blake should happen to come out. But you got to ask yourself, is this going to be something that if Blake stays in, is this going to be something that's going to affect his play for the rest of the match? But that opportunity by Agustino Ojeda right there, it took everything that Blake had to keep that ball from going to the net. I don't think it would have. I think it would have gone off the pipe. But in that situation, you don't leave it a chance. But Blake is clearly in a lot of pain right now, grabbing the right side of his leg. Leg is currently up in the air at the moment, trying to do whatever stretches are involved. I don't know if that was the same trainer from a couple of years ago that had, that threw down with, was it Santi Rodriguez? I forget exactly. But this will be a corner kick for New York at this point. Actually, I'm sorry. We're at a free kick at this point for Philly. But yeah, he's clearly in a lot of pain. Yeah, Rick is getting warmed up right now to get ready. Rick, like I said, is a serviceable backup. And I think if Andre Blake decides to retire, Rick will take it, go right in and take this very quickly. But this is just adding time on right now, which in some ways I think indirectly can actually help NYCFC. Because they're going to need that stamina at the 85th minute. This might give them a couple breather minutes. Rick is getting ready. It looks like Rick may be coming in. He's taking off the outer layer of clothing. He's getting into wardrobe. Ooh, if Andre Blake comes out, that's a big loss. Yep, I think Blake's coming out. I think we have our first substitution of the match here, as Blake is going to be coming out. Andrew Rick's going to be going in. Oof. Yeah, Blake's trying to walk it off right now. It's clearly his right hamstring on the backside. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. If it was the slide, if it was cold. Yep. Wow. Andre Blake is coming out. Yeah. Yeah, he slid. How did that happen? Yeah, see. Yeah, the ball was not going to go in, but again, you can't leave it to chance. But it's been about 5 minutes, and Blake is walking out. And yes, that's the same trainer that threw down against NYCFC years ago too. Okay, that's a big deal right there. Isn't this my question? So in comes Rick. Blake's night is done. You got to wonder what that's going to do psychologically. I mean, I don't think it does a lot of damage because, again, Andrew Rick is solid in his own right. But you got to look at this from the perspective of the fact that Blake has been such a leader for so long. That is this going to affect it a little bit there? But anyway, we're back under play at this point. New York City basically takes the ball back out. Philly has it in their own zone, takes it back to Rick. He gets his first action of the game right there. Kicks the ball through midfield, 40 yards, maybe a 50-yard kick at this point. Another player down for New York, so stoppage of play. Ty Barriba looks like not Damiani, I'm sorry. No yellow card on that. Matt Freese is coming out to complain though. Calling it incidental contact. Hmm. 61st minute. Yeah, Justin Hack he's holding his pec. Yeah, maybe the window's knocked out of him, I'm not sure. Again, you have to ask yourself, is this Justin Hack's last season here too? It's going to be curious to see. Oh, opportunity for New York right here, going on the right side. Wide open, and great save by Rick. Right hand goes out, saves the goal. Agostino Ojeda with another shot. Boy, he is really making his presence known today. That may be the question I want to ask there, too. Boy, I am loving Ojeda here. Yeah. Andrew, Rick with a right-footed save. Sorry, I was going to say right hand, but right foot. Doing live streaming reacts is always usually easier for sports like baseball or football. Soccer's a little tougher. Hockey's got to be brutal. 63rd, we just started the 63rd minute. Philly's trying to break into the box. And ball's headed out of play for what I believe is going to be another Philadelphia corner. They're getting a lot of corners today, though. Again, this falls into that whole bend but don't break scenario. Yeah, Philly with yet another corner at this point. Shot up. Try to pass that across, but nobody there but light blue jerseys, not the dark blue jerseys. Philly has maintained control as they're just back in their own zone, barely. Back into the New York City zone at this point, 63rd minute. We're too casual on that. Philly's still trying to maintain this. But New York's defense is swarming. Good shot, but it was blocked. And is that a corner or a goal kick? Looks like it's going to be a goal kick there. Nope, another corner. God damn, there's a lot of corners today for Philly. That's something you do have to worry about, because I believe this is their 5th corner already. So if you're in New York, you got to figure out a way, because eventually these set pieces are going to hurt you. Shot up, header, and over the top of the net. Philly with its first real opportunity to start the second half here. Header came up and over. It was over the top of Matt Freese, over the top of the net, but not by much. And New York takes the ball back out. Maxey grabbing his shoulder a little bit. Yeah. By sports standards, he's 38 years old, so he is pretty old at this point. Header up and over the top. Freese taking it, 65th minute in. And another shot out of play. Philly trying to set things up again. Shot across and out of play. Shot never had a shot. It was already about 4 or 5 feet wide of goal anyway. Good leg on it, good speed, but accuracy's key. So another goal kick for New York City at this point. 65th minute, 65 minutes in. Philadelphia trying to get that equalizer. Do they have it? That's the question. Can they make this happen? I don't know. New York takes the ball across. It's Tavon's ball, midfield. It's up back to 66th minute. Turnover by Philly, but as they get the ball back, take it right back to midfield. Philly working back towards the box. See a lot of interceptions on this one today, but Philly still maintains control. Another turnover. New York takes it back out again. Almost had a possible odd man rush there, but Philly takes the ball back out at this point. And they have an opportunity there inside the box right there. And shot wide. Another opportunity by Philly, but they couldn't make anything happen. Somebody hit the wrong button on the camera and picked the camera that was that was turning at that point. But it's going to be real interesting to see what happens here. New York is trying to just get something going right now. It's some kind of an opportunity. 68th minute. Pass up across. A little bit of keep away happening for New York, but you got to figure at some point as we're closing in on 70 minutes, there's going to be substitutions for New York. You got to wonder if Michi Elenish will be going in at some point. He's been quiet this year. Once New York and City in mind. You know, here's what I'm going to say. I mean, listen, do I wear a tinfoil hat? Yeah, there could be one under here. I'll give you that. I think if the league had its druthers, it would probably rather have Philadelphia. Because New York City doesn't give 2 shits and a half about this team. You know, if you're in this area, they're just like, who? You know, when there was this whole big thing, SNY posted it at ABC and all this kind of stuff. You know, last year, you know, in New York since the championship, 2009 was the Yankees. And people were like, NYCFC won Gotham. And the response to the comments are like, soccer's not a sport. Philadelphia, I think, has a little more pull at this point. And I think from a perspective, like I said, Philadelphia, the Eagles are playing on Friday. So you're going to want to make sure that this game is actually going to be on the weekend there. And a Philadelphia home game, I think, would be better. Wait, you know what? Let me think about this. A Miami home game, yeah. Shot up and out. Never mind. You know, I was thinking about this purely from a fan perspective, but not so much a league perspective. You know what? So as I'm thinking about this, I'm going to flip flop a little bit. The league, I don't think the league necessarily wants an NYCFC versus Miami. I think they want an anyone versus Miami and Miami's home. I think is really what they're looking at right there. Better viewership for the Eastern Conference Finals, yeah. Because again, Miami's already in. Don Garber got half of what he needed on that. He would have loved LAFC and Son to get in, Bawanga and the rest of them, but especially Son. Because all of Korea will be watching that game. Just like you saw with Japan with Otani. And when I was in Japan 3 months ago, dude, Otani is everywhere. That man, he makes more money in endorsements in Japan than he does from the Dodgers paying him. Because all of it is just basically superimposed images of him sitting there holding this, and then he'll sit there and he'll hold this. And then it's just like check, 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 check. With Son, he's got the same kind of draw with Korea in a lot of ways that Otani has with the Dodgers in baseball. So I think with a Messi Son final would have been Don Garber's wet dream. But it's not going to happen right here. Miami obviously is, they're going to be playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. First time in the team's history, so it's a big deal there. And yes, they are an absolute threat. And let's see who's down now. Maxi Morales is back. My God, that dude is leaving everything on the field today. He is just pure, plain and simple, throwing everything he's got at this point because he knows that. I think he knows this might be his last game too. So, to quote the Water Boy, last game of the season, can't hold anything back now. A little bit of lower back pain right there. I'm used to that, but mainly from just getting off the couch. So, but yeah, he's pissed. But again, you got to look at this about, is he at the end of his career? I don't know. I mean, you got to hope for his sake that maybe he's got another couple games in his tank here. But this is a tough season. Soccer has the shortest off season of any of the major sports in North America, and it's tough on the players because as soon as the MLS Cup final is over at the beginning of December, training camp starts in like 6 weeks. So you got no layoff there. You got no chance to just get a break, catch a chance. I'll break it all. You're right back into it pretty much immediately. Then you have Coachella, and then NYCFC. 2.5 months after the MLS Cup Finals is over, 2.5 months later, you have the regular season starting again. But that isn't it. So we're now in the 72nd minute. Still light on the. Very curious here. I don't think New York has done a single. I don't think they have done a single substitution. Small opportunity for Philly as it comes across the box, but nothing there. Three yellow cards overall. 73rd minute coming up. Yeah. New York is just leaving their players in. That's very interesting to me. I guess Pascal Janssen has the faith in these guys with a 2-week break to have just enough gas in the tank to do what they need to. You got to assume he's going to start using his substitutions probably in the next inside 10 minutes here. But he's going with the hot hand. He's going with working. Again, the team is still up 1-0 right now on Maxi Morales' first half goal. So 73 minutes. That fan base in Philly, that Duke fan nation, is getting a little pissed off right now because they're not getting anything happen. They're not getting any momentum. The fans are stone quiet at this point. This is not what they were expecting from their team at the year. And again, I got to ask the question: is a 3-week layoff the problem? I do think it has some impact. Yeah, header across opportunity, but still no. Attempted a bicycle kick, but kind of a fail there. And Damiani is down, but he's getting back up again. Oh, he's pissed at himself, though. He knew the opportunity was there. But back out for another goal kick. Now, I don't know in this case who they have as the press conference for us. So for New York City, it's definitely going to be Pascal Janssen as a given. All right, they still haven't sent me the link yet. That's fine. They still haven't sent, that's their. Yeah, Damiani had an opportunity, but he kind of whiffed the kick there, right off the side of his foot. So he knew he had an opportunity, and he was pissed at himself for it. They're showcasing Agostino Hayda. That, like I said, that kid has had a really good game for a 20-year-old. He has had some great opportunities today. Hasn't scored on them, but he's made an impact with everything he's done, including indirectly driving Andre Blake out of this game with an opportunity and a kick when Blake came way too far out of goal and had to motor himself back, slide, and hurt himself in the process. Ooh, great opportunity for Philly, and an even greater save by Matt Freese to knock that ball away. That was a huge opportunity for Philly right there. As the ball basically goes back to past midfield and kick back to Andrew Rick. '75th minute right now. And not a whole lot of stoppage time, I don't think. Maybe 6 minutes, I'm guessing right now. But you look at this Philly team right now, and they got to be frustrated. The opportunities were there. And you can see they're going to start to really put the pressure on. Ball's up and out of play, and I believe it's going to be another corner kick for Philadelphia. That's, I think, their 6th corner kick today. I want to try. Pass up, and too far and out of play, and back out for yet another goal kick. 76th minute right now. You know what? I might do a live stream of next week too, just for the sake of it, regardless of who wins today. Philly has maintained control for much of this half. Trying to break through, but the New York defense is still there. Philly maintaining control, not 10 yards away from the box at this point. Back out to midfield for themselves. Ball's out of play. Stavo's pissed. Are they looking at a PK on this? Oh, that would take the yellow. Oh, we have a yellow card right here. Oh, what does this mean? Nope. Matt Freese is taking it out for a goal kick. But yeah, yellow card on Matt Freese, probably delay a game, but you know what? He probably don't care. You take yellow cards like that at this point. Because right now you don't play overly defensive, but you do have the lead, and the clock is your friend. Not your best friend, but the casual acquaintance that little by little becomes like your bestie over time. So you kind of sit there and you milk that best friend, that new friend, and develop its friendship as you go. And that is what the clock is for that team. And we have our first substitution of the game, finally, for NYCFC. Hannes Wolf is coming out in exchange for Mija Ilinic. Yeah, good to see that young man get some time there. I always like that kid. He's got a good personality. Mm-hmm. He's always got a good, no matter if the team wins or loses, he always had a good smile on his face. I think in some ways he fell out of favor a little bit with Pascal Janssen this season. So who knows what's going to happen in the offseason. But it's good that he's getting some minutes right now. So you're looking at probably 5-6 minutes of added time at this point. Right now we're on the 79th minute, showcasing a little bit of Johnny Shore, the 18-year-old from New York. And Philly's coming across. 5 yards from the box. And a turnover, and New York takes the ball back. They can clear and can't clear, and Philly takes the ball back now. That's them. Ball's inside the box. Philly maintains control. Actually, Philly just lost control. And New York tries to take it right across midfield right now. Good pass. Opportunity over on the left side for New York. Pass across. Can they reach in time? Nope. And opportunity, goal, and a great save by Rick. Huge opportunity for Rick, but still New York is still controlling the ball. Now just back inside the box. 80th minute. Thiago Martin trying to maintain control. Gets the ball back. Takes the ball back to Matt Freeze at this point. 90th or 80th minute. Mm-mm. 10 minutes of regulation time left. Then 5 to 6, maybe 7 minutes, even if you want to be generous. Or added time. New York passes across the left side. Takes it towards the box. It's in the box. Who's in the box? Philly's still holding line. 81st minute right now. New York is actually back in the box at this point. Bad angle. Can't do much with it. Kicks the ball. It's going to go out of play. And a throw in for New York at 80 minutes and 23 seconds. Tavon with a throw in. Throws it in with some anger there. And ball goes out of play. And it'll be a throw in very quickly. Just like that, it'll be a goal kick for Philadelphia. Both goalkeepers have had to make some great saves in this half to keep this game 1-0. Sorry, 1-0. I don't like the word nil, so I usually prefer nothing. They're trying to maintain because Philly's just really trying to pressure right now. You're almost going to start reaching that point where you're going to start looking to see if Rick's going to start coming out. If he's going to start becoming an extra attacker. You got to wonder if that's going to happen soon. (81-32, 33, 34). New York City still currently up 1-0 now in the second half. Philly's trying to put pressure, trying to break it into the box. Pass across, but New York takes it and just very casually knocks it back out of the box and boots the ball straight into next week. Another New York City player down. And no stoppage of play, it looks like. Philly's going to keep the ball, keep rolling. Takes the ball back across midfield. And turnover for another free kick at this point for Philly. Let's take a look at some of the stats. There is a substitution coming. Shots on target are 4-4, but overall shots are in favor of Philadelphia, 15-5. There've been a lot of fouls. 17 fouls by Philly, 9 by New York, but 15 shots to 5. But 8 shots off target. Yeah, so it means the shots don't mean shit. How many corners do we have? Corner. Yeah. Philadelphia. 6 corners. Sorry about that. Inadvertently had a Star Wars video in another tab, and I tabbed back to the wrong tab. Play. All right. Fans are still trying to get the team back into it right now, but you know they're pissed. Another corner by Philly. Opportunity for Philly. They can get they can't get it back. Got a shot across the opportunity, but Philly is going to get the ball back. Take it all the way back to Andrew Rick, who comes out of the box. And he's starting to move forward a little bit now, too. Takes the ball straight into next week. Little game of keep away right here. Philly takes the ball back to Rick again, who actually touched the ball outside of the 18. I guess that's not that go. He touched the ball with his hand, but I guess they're letting that one slide. Ball's out of play. And a throw-in from New York as now we're approaching the 85th minute. 83-55 now. Philly has just been stymied tonight. Ball's out of play. Pass was blocked by Philly by Nathan Harriel, but kicked out of play, so it's another throw-in for New York. 84-29. Gustavo's in a little bit of pain, walking with a little bit of a limp. I don't think he's coming out permanently. I don't think they're subbing him out, but now he's taking the throw-in. Bradley Cardell being a cool guy and throwing, tossing the ball to Gustavo there. And a yellow card again. What, for delay a game? Or did Cornell come out of the box? Let's see. Philly just trying to get the ball out of their own zone, which they finally do back to midfield. But Philly with a possible opportunity here. But New York has just stymied them on defense. They've done a really, really good job today of being able to keep that team from getting any traction right here. 85-44, 45, 46 seconds in. New York City's still up 1-0 right now. Raul Gustavo with a yellow card. Another yellow card. Another one for NYCFC. They've gotten a lot today, but still, it's only his first. But him, Hannes, Maxi Morales has gotten a yellow today too. New York with the ball straight up. You're a choke artist. Saying this is a Union fan who watched them play chances. You know, they've had the opportunity, and they had another one right there. Kick the ball up and over the net. But a huge, huge opportunity for Philly right there. Boy, it's just the frustration is just pouring off the Union players right now. And the fans as well, I got to say that. But, yeah, this has been something that actually has been really rough for them. And this, again, is where I keep coming back to this. That 3-week layoff. You cannot keep doing that to players. You know, these guys are just, they're predisposed and trained. And I asked Hannes Wolf about this the other day. You know, these guys are trained. Strahin is coming in, Maxi came out. These guys are trained to operate on a very systematic schedule. And when you have a literal 3-week layoff, actually, there's a reason why getting the supporter shield hurts you. Because this shit keeps happening. You know, if this was a 1-week layoff or even 2, you know, I think this is a different game. But that's part of the reason why I think New York was able to do the right things that they had to do. And that's why 87-32, you see New York City with a lead 1-0 right now. But yeah, if you're Philadelphia, like, you know, the supporter shield doesn't mean shit. Great. You got a shield. You got most points. So what? You know? You know, yesterday, Gotham FC was an 8th seed that won the title. Who cares if they were first seed overall? You know, because like I said, it doesn't really matter. 1-0 right now, 89th minute we just started on. So in a couple minutes, we're going to find out how many minutes of added time. 5, 6, 7 is my guess right here. With Andre Blake coming out, that took a few minutes. So we'll see what happens there. Philly. Trying to get inside, trying to drive deep, but they can't. They've just been stonewalled by this New York City defense. And that is something the defense has gotten a lot of accolades for this year. They've got, Gustavo's taking a beating today. Matt Freese is taking the free kick himself. Everybody's going downfield. He's going to, like I said, boot the ball into next week. Shot across and out of play. It's a throw in for Philly. Don't think that was the game plan there, sir. 89-18 is what I've got on the clock right now. And ball kick. Was the ball saved? Nope, wasn't saved. No, they're saying it was saved. All right, never mind. Yeah, it's a throw in for Philly. Okay, I thought from New York. What was going on? I lost. O'Toole has the throw in here. By the way, congratulations to Kevin O'Toole. He just got engaged. He's getting married in December of next year. So congratulations there. Yeah. Pretty sure the salary that he's earning will afford a decent wedding. You're welcome to invite me, my wife and I. I'll happily go. But ball is out of play. 90th minute. Now we're officially into added time. How many minutes we got? We have 6 minutes of added time. And New York City FC is still up 1-0 right now. Let me just fix that super quick. Oops. Oh, there we go. All right. So 91st minute, 6 minutes of added time. New York City currently up 1-0, kicks the ball out of play. Another throw in for Philly. Philly just can't even get the ball out of their own zone right here. Header. New York City still maintains control in Philly's area. And Philly does get the ball back in an interception. Ball's across midfield right now. Shot and just wide. Philly with an opportunity right there. Matt Freese with a tip, and it's going to be yet another corner for Philadelphia. But a good opportunity right there out of nowhere. Matt Freese, yeah, with a good save on that. That would have been a goal, but he got one hand on it. He got the right hand on it to knock it out of play. But it is still a corner kick. So here we are on the 92nd minute, 91-38. And we have, I believe, the 8th corner for Philadelphia. Maybe 9th today. So. Philly's taking their time with this corner too. I'm curious. Trying to get a reset up. Corner set piece up and knocked out and not out of play, but New York City still holds on to it. They can kick the ball into next week. Can't do it, but ball's out of play. We got another throw in. 92-17. NYCFC still up 1-0 right now, late in the second half. 6 minutes of added time right now. We're at 92-25. Is it possible that New York City FC can move on to the Eastern Conference Finals and play Inter Miami in Miami? Are we going to have to hear that Will Smith song about going to Miami? I don't know. Might have to hear that one. You know what? Maybe I'll even actually throw that as a reference to whatever player in the press conference. Obviously that's a Will Smith song that's older than some of the players, but maybe I'll ask him something about basically going to Miami. As a national team fan, Freese is in good form. But Union fan, I'm frustrated. Yeah, Also, again, keep in mind that 4 years ago, Matt Freese was the starting goalkeeper in the Eastern Conference Finals against NYCFC in the COVID game. Granted, they should not have gone to, Andre Blick's birthday on a boat, but that's a different thing. But Matt Freese is coming back to Philadelphia in a playoff game in very different circumstances right now. But no, he's been dynamic for this team. Surprised a lot of us on the New York City side when he was traded, because I figured it was Braz's team and they traded him, and his entire life was always Philly. So opportunity in. Philly's just trying to break in. You're surprised a lot of us because his entire career was like Pennsylvania, Philly, Wayne, Pennsylvania. And suddenly he came to the team that just beat him in the Eastern Conference Finals. But he has really improved his game. He's talked a lot about the fact that he learned how to play forward, One of the things that actually never really happened, Fernandez is coming in at this point. One of the things that never really happened too much is he used to play back with Philadelphia and had to learn how to play forward. Because in high school, he was a midfielder. So he was used to playing at midfield and had to be trained to do that, which is a struggle for him because he spent so many years playing back in Philly that now he had to unlearn that and starting in. But clearly it's affected his game because he's the starter for U.S. men's national, like you said. So 94-15. Philly still trying to maintain. They may have an opportunity to get inside the box right here. Pass in. Crowd, a lot of light blue jerseys there. Chip shot, taken out. New York City with an opportunity to just take the ball all the way down to Rick if they want to. And ball is actually voted back to Rick. 94-42. Maybe we'll go to 97, give or take. Maybe 98 at most. But we're down to, at most, 3 minutes of gameplay left. Matt Freese with the stop, holding onto the ball, dropping down, milking this for every second he can, as long as he doesn't do above, because he already has one yellow card for delay of game, and he doesn't want another one, because you want him against Miami. No disrespect to Tomas Romero or Rajat Singh or Rando or any of them. But the ball's back out. Literally punted all the way out to Rick, who takes the ball and takes it back to himself. Boots across, back into the NYCFC. Header back out. I think, wow. Ball is up. Philly just cannot get the ball through that zone. New York City's defense has just been top friggin' notch today. It's been a bend and not break. But that's what, bend and not break still works. Back out to midfield again. And now we are at 96 minutes completed. 96-01 of 6 added minutes. So any second, that whistle is going to blow. Any second, that whistle is going to blow. You got to look at this. It's a throw in for New York, and they are just taking their jolly sweet time, but that's not going to work. The officials are not going to, they're not going to count this time here. Possible delay. Yep, yeah. Feels like, hey, come on. I know what you're trying to do. It's not going to work on it. So, throw in for New York right about now. Ball booted straight up and back out of play. That's not what New York wanted to do, because now it's a throw in for Philly. I don't really have a great throw in. Is more of a volleyball launch, but so. Carnell and Janssen are just going nuts on the sideline right now as we're down. Rick has come forward. Rick is now basically a midfielder. Philly is basically trying to get the ball back into the NYCFC zone. And that is it. Holy shit on a stick. New York City Football Club with the win. And they are moving on. They are moving on to take on. They are moving on, and they are taking on Inter Miami next week. And you know what? Fuck it, I'm just going to say it anyway. They're going to Miami. Benito, Vami. Party in the city where the heat is on all night on the beach. You know what? Yeah. I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, not Lionel Messi. So New York City, this little tiny upstart of a team, has gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals, not only by taking out Charlotte FC when nobody thought they were going to do that, including myself, but also taking out the Philadelphia Union on their home turf in a best-of-1 and dethroning the Supporters' Shield winner with a 1-0 win on a Maxi Morales first-half goal. That was the difference maker throughout. So New York City's dream season continues. Who knows what's going to happen next week? I will be doing a live stream of that. I don't know exactly when the game is. I got to look that up. But New York City is going to be continuing this one. And, yeah, didn't see this coming. I'll be honest with you. I really thought that Philly was going to bring a better performance. I figured the rust was going to be there for early on. I figured that was going to be something that was going to be a problem. But kudos to NYCFC. You know what? Their season continues. And for Pascal Janssen, this is the furthest this team has gotten in 3 years. So, again, a lot of credit there. Pascal Janssen with a smile on his face. You don't see that one too often. So this press conference is going to be pretty positive on his side. You know, bro hugs all around. Third rail with some half-naked dudes up there, possibly drunk. I don't know. I don't think they care either way. But New York City FC with the win. We will be back next week. We will be basically breaking this down, live streaming. New York City FC visiting Inter Miami after defeating the Philadelphia Union at Subaru Park in a late game on a Sunday night, 1-0. Anyway, my name is Scott Schertzen. This is Streampunk Soccer. I am almost a Z-list celebrity because of my time in the film industry. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you want. I mean, I've got stuff lined up for after the off season. We'll be doing a live stream of the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll be doing a live stream of the MLS Cup. That's a given. That's just going to happen. But for the rest of this right now, I'm excited by this. I'm intrigued by this. And let me know what you guys want. Until next time, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Appreciate the time. Take care. I got to go do a press conference for NYCFC. It's going to be a pretty jovial one, not going to lie. But until next time, appreciate it. Stay well and stay awesome.